if I told you The Simpsons casually predicted Donald Trump's presidency nearly 2 decades before it happened? Sounds impossible, right? But that's exactly what went down in the iconic Bart to the Future episode. Picture this, a cartoon gag, played for laughs, suddenly mutating into one of America's strangest realities. Bart sees a vision of the future. Lisa Simpson stepping into the Oval Office. But here's the twist. She's inheriting the presidency after Donald Trump leaves the country completely broke. Yeah, the same Donald Trump who years later actually became president, shaping history beyond satire's imagination. And here's the kicker. The episode aired in 2000, when TikTok wasn't even a word. So how did a cartoon, scribbled on yellow paper, drop a prophecy that shaped the real White House? Was it just coincidence, or is The Simpsons quietly the greatest crystal ball in pop culture history? Let's be real, predictions like this aren't funny anymore. They feel like warnings dressed as comedy. Because if satire can call out the future, what does that say about the future itself? Lisa becoming president wasn't the shocking part. It was who came before her that shook everyone later. Trump wasn't a serious political figure in 2000, just a businessman with a flashy golden tower. Yet, The Simpsons writers casually wrote his presidency as America's financial downfall, like a throwaway joke. But throwaway jokes don't usually become prophecies, unless something deeper is going on behind the punchlines. And that's what makes this prediction different. It wasn't just random, it felt suspiciously intentional. Was the joke crafted out of sharp cultural foresight, or was it accidental clairvoyance from cartoon writers? Either way, this episode instantly transformed from forgotten filler into a cultural artifact after Trump's election. And suddenly, the question shifted from, did The Simpsons predict the future? To, what else did they know? Because if they nailed this one, then maybe the next joke could already be waiting for us. But here's where things get weirder. The Trump is president joke didn't stop with that one episode. Therefore, fans started digging, realizing The Simpsons dropped hints about politics, corruption, and collapsing economies way earlier. What looked like slapstick suddenly read like a timeline. America's chaos outlined in yellow ink and laughter. Think about it. A cartoon family from Springfield foreshadowing one of the most controversial leaders in history. But doesn't that raise the question, was Trump the joke, or was America itself the punchline? Therefore, Lisa's presidency wasn't hopeful. It was damage control after Trump, quote, bankrupted the country's economy completely. The writers literally gave us a scenario where comedy and tragedy shook hands in the White House. And here's the wild part. The scene isn't even subtle, it's painfully direct when rewatched today. Bart, sitting there, watching Lisa clean up Trump's mess, becomes the symbol of every disbelieving American. But if comedy was already this accurate, what happens when satire outpaces reality completely? Therefore, rewatching The Simpsons feels less like nostalgia and more like scrolling through tomorrow's breaking headlines. Trump's campaign speeches, his larger-than-life personality, his obsession with gold, all mocked decades before they actually unfolded. But mocking something and then watching it come true, that's not comedy anymore, that's cultural prophecy. Therefore, the episode resurfaced in 2016 like a ghost, haunting timelines, memes, and news cycles simultaneously. Even mainstream media picked it up, headlines screaming, Simpsons called Trump presidency 16 years before reality. But think about that. It wasn't a pollster, a professor, or an expert. It was Springfield. Therefore, The Simpsons didn't just mirror culture, they bent it, making us wonder if fiction fuels reality. And suddenly, the villain wasn't just Trump. It was the blurred line between satire and destiny. But if that line keeps erasing, then maybe cartoons aren't cartoons anymore. Maybe they're blueprints. Therefore, the Trump prophecy isn't just funny. It's the scariest example of art foreshadowing reality collapsing together. But the real kicker? Every time America laughed, The Simpsons whispered, "Careful, the laugh might echo tomorrow." Therefore, the Trump prediction isn't just entertainment. It's a neon warning sign hidden inside cartoon chaos. Bart's future vision wasn't a gag anymore. It felt like history dressed in yellow, waiting its cue. But Lisa's role, stepping in after Trump, raises another question. Are we doomed to repeat this cycle? Therefore, the true prophecy might not be Trump himself, but the endless cleanup after leaders who break systems. Imagine being told your political future by a 10-year-old prankster drawn with spiky hair and a skateboard. But isn't that exactly why it hits harder? The joke comes from someone we least expect. Therefore, when people laugh at Bart to the Future, they're laughing at a mirror they're afraid to recognize. The villain? Not just Trump, but complacency. The belief that satire is harmless, that cartoons stay cartoons. But history proves otherwise. Laughter can disguise warnings sharper than any newspaper headline or political forecast. Therefore, Springfield becomes more than fiction. It becomes the warning siren America never thought to take seriously. Lisa's calm voice, her struggle to rebuild, becomes the audience's silent prayer for leaders who can fix chaos. But even that prayer feels shaky when we realize The Simpsons never end. The loop always continues. Therefore, the Trump prophecy isn't an isolated fluke. It's part of a pattern predicting disaster and resilience. Every episode feels like a dice roll. Will we laugh? Or will tomorrow prove it terrifyingly accurate? But doesn't that make you wonder, how many more episodes are quietly sketching out our future? Therefore, Bart to the Future lives on as proof that jokes sometimes tell truths too heavy for reality. And in that truth, Trump isn't just a character. He's a symbol of satire becoming destiny. But destiny can shift if viewers stop laughing long enough to actually hear what the cartoon is saying. Therefore, I'll leave you with this. The Simpsons never predicted Trump. They predicted us ignoring the warning signs.